Afghanistan just recently became the longest war in our history. Granted, not nearly as many people have died in Afghanistan as Vietnam, but still, war has become this normal state, this constant idea. We're always at war. We have to be shooting someone. That's what we do nowadays. We're America. Afghanistan wasn't even enough for us, and I can understand going to Afghanistan. That's where Osama bin Laden was. Then we go and invade Iraq, where bin Laden wasn't, and weapons of mass destruction weren't, despite all the lies to the contrary. And by the way, whenever you ever hear anything about Iran and how they're so dangerous, please think back to Iraq as of 2002, 2003. And there was this growing chorus of experts that thought, this was such a great idea to go invade because we needed to, because they had weapons of mass destruction. And then it turns out they didn't. Maybe we've got similarly inaccurate information on a wide variety of other things. Just a thought. Let me double check a little bit. The sins of America are widespread and interconnected. We have corruption. We have stupidity. Sometimes it's hard to know which is occurring. Because, by the way, on the military aspect, there's a lot of money in the military, right? And Eisenhower told us, quite famously, that we must avoid the military-industrial complex. Which, to simplify it, means that there's a lot of money in the military, which causes a certain bias to do crap with the military, and then to put more money into the military and the people involved. And on that comes with the money. Two types of biases here. That we just think of. One, someone who knows such and such war or such and such military project is unnecessary, but I'm gonna push for it anyway, so my company can make some money, or my district can get some jobs, something like that, at the expense of, whatever else we could spend this money on that might be more useful, like, I don't know, good healthcare. We passed a healthcare bill, but it could be so much better. And then there's a second type of bias, which is a person who actually believes that we need to have all these more weapons and we need to bomb all these core countries, and that's like the best way to do stuff. And you have to be aware of these two types of biases, because it means not everyone is an actual liar, even though they may be wrong. We do have quite a thing with war, though. And we're in Afghanistan. Still ongoing after all this time. You think we could manage to set up a government and something? No. Our head guy over there, Karzai, has proven a good deal of corruption. And then we haven't abandoned him for it. It should be like, well, you're corrupt and we don't believe in corruption in America, so screw you. Is there anyone else over here we can support? But we participate in a lot of corruption. We've kidnapped a lot of random people in Afghanistan on the suspicion they were terrorists. And I know of no evidence that we kidnap people just for the heck of it. But we've been extremely negligent with the idea of protecting rights. If there's any thought at all you might be a terrorist, boom, you're gone. People say, this is war. And this and 1,000 other issues. This is war, and so this is a special circumstance. No, it's not special. Not anymore. War is constant nowadays. When was the last time we weren't at war? It's a while ago. When is this war going to end? When is Iraq going to end? Supposedly we're pulling out some number of troops. I forget how many, but a large number of them this year. I saw an article recently, though. It's in one of the links. I'm sorry. After a while, they just got disorganized. There's a giant section called More, I think. I saw a link, though, from military commanders who say, we can meet this deadline if there is the political will to get it done. Because so far we haven't, met the schedule, basically, to do this in an orderly fashion. We can still do this if the political will is there, they say. So I'm guessing we're not doing this. I'm guessing the political will is not there. I'm guessing we're going to keep more soldiers there than the plan currently states. and practically everything we take out of Iraq will just go back into Afghanistan. And then maybe Iran. Which, by the way, if Iran does, you know, desire a nuclear weapon, that doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world. I mean, gee guys, if they used it, we would just nuke them. So, there's deterrence there, you know, remember that old concept. Secondly, North Korea already has a nuke, and, you know, the world hasn't ended yet, so, you know, they're part of the axis of evil, too. North Korea's a terrible place, by the way. Absolutely terrible. Total totalitarianism. I have tremendous sympathy for all the people that have to live through that. And my third point on that Iran getting a nuke bit, you can understand why they might want one, considering we've invaded both their eastern and western neighbors. How the frick would you react if, like, you're getting invaded left and right? Which, by the way, doesn't excuse Iran's various sins. I'm not saying they're a nice place either. That doesn't mean we should rush to invade everyone in the world. Because that's just our habit. Whether by any of those two biases that I mentioned. We've kidnapped random people. We've thrown them in jail. Now, mistakes are made, of course. But this is why we have a judicial system. This is this concept we've developed over the centuries. To put someone, to restrain them in any way, put them in jail, for instance, you need successively greater degrees of evidence, basically. First, you need, you know, a cop to believe that this guy should be arrested, right? And that cop is not just anybody, right? He has to be trained to be a cop and so forth. There is also citizen's arrest, but skipping that for a second. First, you need a cop, right? And he can arrest you for just a little bit and takes you down to the station or whatever. And then, say there's habeas corpus. You have to show, you know, a judge or somebody some basic proof that we have good reason to detain this guy. And you know, set up for a trial to occur. And then there's a trial. And, you know, both sides present their case and show all the evidence, and we bring it to an impartial jury and figure out whether the guy is guilty or not, right? This is the basic process. And then there's even appeals after that. So even if the guy's in jail, and he's been there for like 6 years, you can still appeal and say, wait a minute, I found this new DNA evidence, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, sometimes the person turns out to be innocent. It's amazing that I have to explain this, the basic judicial process, as if this were a new concept. But we've forgotten it when it comes to terrorists. Haven't we? We've forgotten it when it comes to alleged terrorists. Alleged. Please burn that word into your brain. Because as I was saying earlier, when people have lost the concept that the government might be wrong about certain things, the biggest thing that they've lost there, or one of the biggest things, is the concept that someone captured by the government and thrown into a jail and called a terrorist might not be a terrorist. Maybe we made a mistake. Do you not get this? It happens sometimes. It happens for all forms of criminality. Sometimes you get the wrong man. Well, we have a freaking trial. And for years, we had people in jail with no trials of any kind. There had to be all these lawsuits that went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has said multiple times, on 5-4 votes, by the way, which will be important in a moment. The Supreme Court said multiple times, you need to have basic rights for people. You need to give them habeas corpus reviews and so forth. There are various laws for this, you know. This is not just for American citizens. If, by the way, you look at the Constitution, you look at the Bill of Rights, it doesn't say rights granted to citizens for most of those. Most of those it says persons.